Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. My name is Kim Cafino, and I have worked with hundreds of teachers, coaches, and leaders in schools around the world to help them create a thriving and sustainable instructional coaching program. And I'm on a mission to help you coach better. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, come learn with us in one of our courses for instructional coaches or our private mentoring packages. Join our global Coach Better community and find all of our resources for instructional coaches on our website at coachbetter.tv. If you have a question you'd like to hear us answer or a topic you'd like us to discuss, please drop us a line on our website at coachbetter.tv/ask. Join our Coach Better Facebook group or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube to catch all of our latest episodes. Today, Clint and I are talking about the focus for Season 5 so you can see where we're going with the podcast. This Spotlight episode features our conversation about defining instructional coaching and sharing why it's important to have a clear definition in your school community. In the full-length episode, we talk about how this process can be challenging, specifically for international schools, and how all schools can be prepared to build successful coaching programs. Throughout the episode, you'll hear highlights from this upcoming season, and there are so many great conversations. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, go do it right now so you don't miss any of the episodes in Season 5. It's interesting because what's new in my world is something that's also like very old in my world, and I feel like it's just kind of raised its priority on my mind lately, and I've been having a lot of conversations with schools and school leaders, and tangentially with coaches, but coaches know this already, but it seems to be coming up with schools and school leaders about like what actually is coaching. And so kind of today in this episode, we wanted to take a step back and refresh. What is coaching? What do we mean by coaching? Why is it important to have this definition? Because if we're not all operating from the same understanding of what coaching is, we're having a conversation, but we're not talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes somebody might say, oh, I'm a tech coach, but they're not going through a coaching process. Or an administrator might, know that coaching is, the word that's fancy and exciting, and everybody's talking about it at the recruitment fairs.
Yes.
But their idea of what coaching is versus maybe your idea or our idea of what coaching is like totally like ships passing in the night.
Yes, that is exactly it.
So break it down, Kim. What is Kim's definition of coaching?
So I think everyone knows, and from our last episode from Season 4, I was working on a book chapter about the hidden value of instructional coaching for international schools. And in that book, I included this definition. So I'm going to share it now. My definition of coaching, which is not rocket science and nothing crazy, but this is just the way I think about it, is instructional coaching is a formal or informal process that is non-evaluative and confidential and not tied to appraisal. It starts with teacher goals and is invitational for teachers to access. It involves a cycle, structure, or system of self-reflection, and it operates as close to the classroom as possible with observation, co-teaching, or modeling as part of the experience. Those are my 4 bullet points. What do you think?
I think what's really stands out to me is what it isn't in what you're saying too, right? It's not fixing people. It's not telling people what to do. It's not forcing my priorities as the coach or as the principal or as the curriculum coordinator onto. All of those things have a place in schools, international schools, public schools, all of those things, and they're important. And it's important that we do these programs with fidelity. That's sort of that's my bugbear phrase at the moment, with fidelity, right? But I use it a lot. We do these things with fidelity. But you're right, that's not coaching. Coaching is invitational, non-evaluative. It's about us as individuals choosing to increase our own capacity and having somebody there who's going to ask us some of those critical questions that are going to help us see our blind spots or are going to help us think from a different perspective. But ultimately, as the coachee, I'm doing the work that I feel needs to be done. You're just helping me find that work or highlight the bright spots and the not so bright spots.
Yes. And I feel like that understanding of what coaching is because I don't know if you are feeling this too, but I'm feeling very much like there's a very upswing in the trend towards coaching right now. Like I'm just hearing it a lot in a lot of places. People are talking about it. They're excited about it. They want to know what it is. How can we bring it to international schools? It is not a new thing in the world of education, but in international schools, it still feels like it's a little bit new. And I feel like the trend is on the upswing. People are excited about it. And so I think everybody kind of wants to have coaching conversations. School leaders want to have coaching conversations. The curriculum coordinators want to have coaching conversations, and everybody can have coaching conversations, but those people shouldn't necessarily have the job title of coach. Because when you put coach in the title, it's got those pieces of being non-evaluative, confidential, invitational, all of those pieces that make coaching a safe space for someone to grow. And for someone to feel like they have the safety to grow, they have to be able to be vulnerable. And someone who's evaluating you, someone whose role involves compliance to a program, it's very hard for them to give that complete freedom to say whatever needs to be said, because if something comes up that raises a flag, they have to deal with it, right? So I think that definition of coaching is so important to decide on, agree upon in your school team to say, what is coaching and who's doing the coaching?
Right. And I think, you and I have both worked with heads of schools or principals who are great coaches. They're great mentors. They ask amazing questions. They really make me think about the work that I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But I don't know if that person was ever my direct supervisor. I don't know if that person was ever, someone who at the end of the year is filling out my form and ticking all the boxes. They obviously were in a position of authority in the school, but they weren't my direct authority. And I think that does make a difference sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just really important to keep in mind. Just because if you're a principal and you're listening to this, or head of school and you're listening to this, it doesn't mean you can't have these coaching conversations. But sometimes you need to know that it's hard to open up, right?
Absolutely.
When you're the one who's going to be writing my recommendation to my next school sometimes. And don't take that personally. Don't take it's just that's human nature.
Yeah, it is. I have a great quote I want to share a little bit later when we talk about a preview for the season. But one of the interviews that I did this season was with Caitlin Patanga, and she's the assistant principal at International School Panama. And she said a beautiful statement that I will say better later, but it's about the fact that, I'm saying something else about her later. So I'll tell you this. She said something else that's different than the statement I planned for later, which is, as a principal, as an administrator, she has one of her duties is evaluating her teachers. And as much as she wants to be coaching, as much as she wants to be having coaching conversations, she knows that for teachers to be able to truly feel safe in those coaching conversations, they need to be having them with someone who is confidential and non-evaluative. And that's just not her. As an administrator, that's one of her roles, is to be evaluative.
Right. So one of her roles is to find people, because she knows how important that is. To find people that has those same values who can then have those conversations.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So let's change gears here a little bit, or just on the same track. We talk about this all the time, but just again, lay it out for us. Why is it so important to have this clear understanding for us as a school, for us as a community, to have that same definition of coaching, even if it's not exactly Kim's definition, right?
Yes, exactly. To have a shared definition. Yes. You and I have both been through this same scenario where maybe at some point in your career, you had, I don't know, the job title of tech facilitator or tech integrator or tech specialist, and then it changed to something else and it changed something else. And at some point it became tech coach, but the job definition, the job description never changed. So the role was essentially the same, but the title was just changing. It makes it really hard to successfully implement any sort of expectation, any sort of role, unless you can define it. So when you can define it, you can implement it, and then you can measure it. And I think unless we have clarity around the definition, it's very hard to actually implement the work of coaching. And the same kind of thing about the roles changing titles over the years. If we don't have a definition of coaching, then everyone thinks they're a coach. And then suddenly that dilutes the entire concept of what coaching is, because everyone's coaching. And while there are wonderful peer coaching models like cognitive coaching, the role of the instructional coach, that is a very specific role, should be the person doing that job. Anyone can have coaching conversations, but there's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 staff members that have the role of being a coach. So defining it allows that person to implement the role and allows other people who may want to have coaching conversations understand that they can have coaching conversations, but they're not the job title of coach. So that clarity is so essential to making coaching successful.
And it just makes me wonder, can two people in the same school, same organization have a title of coach and maybe look at the job differently? Like, as a tech coach, if I'm truly coaching, all right, are my roles and responsibilities the same as somebody who is a literacy coach? Is it possible to have like the same model for very, very different jobs, or do they need to have different models? Does it bring confusion if two different coaches are using two different models? What are your thoughts on that?
So we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but one of the things that I've been working on over the last year, and some of you that are like avid podcast listeners, you already know this, you've watched the workshop, you've downloaded the freebies, but one of the things I've been working on building out over the last year or so is the Thrive model for instructional coaching success. And that has 3 parts: clarity, consistency, community. And the idea behind that is that to develop a thriving coaching culture, you need all 3 of these. And if you're missing one, you might have a stumbling block somewhere. And I call that a gap. And so what is your gap? And we can identify the gap. And what you're talking about is when you have multiple coaches doing multiple different types of coaching with multiple different models of coaching, sometimes that ends up in little to no impact of coaching, because teachers need to know what to expect from coaching. And if everybody's doing something different, it becomes really hard for teachers to invest their time in coaching, because maybe they coach with Clint and they get this experience. They coach with Kim and they get this experience. They coach with Diana, they get this experience. Coaching should be personalized, of course, but it still has to have some level of clarity of expectation for teachers to decide, I want to spend my time doing that thing, if we believe coaching is invitational, right?
Right. And consistency of process.
Exactly. Yes. Which is what you were really asking about. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's asking about both of those things, because I mean, it is a question that I kind of wrangle with. And I think now more and more people are embracing kind of the umbrella term of instructional coach.
Yes.
Right. But even if we think back maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you might be at a school and they had a literacy coach and a numeracy coach and a technology coach. And they might even have, another sort of coach. I don't know.
Science. Yeah.
They're all focusing on very different things. The data that they might be collecting, or that how they might be measuring success in their coaching cycles with teachers might be different. I could see them going through very different processes, still being effective in their own role, but as a coaching program, maybe not having that coherence and not being able to transfer lessons from the numeracy coach to the data coach to the literacy coach, right? So I think having that program also from a school's perspective is super important, again, for that scalability, consistency, stability of the program.
And the measuring piece, right? Like we always talk about how coaches have a challenging aspect to their job because they don't have student contact time. That budget line is always in danger. Like it's just always vulnerable, right? So like if you don't have consistency in your program, you don't have consistency in your practice, it's very hard to measure the impact that you're having. And that's something that usually classroom teachers moving into a coaching role don't think about, but administrators are thinking about it. School boards are thinking about it. Like, is this position valuable to our school community? And the only way you can determine that is if you have something consistent to be able to track.
Right. I mean, unfortunately, it is about return on investment sometimes, right? It will go down to numbers. And I think COVID showed it. Like, if we're struggling as an international school to get students because everybody's returned to their home country, it's these support teachers, it's these coaches, it's your EAL teachers who don't have that full 100% contact time like a grade 3 homeroom teacher that are they are first on the firing line, I guess.
Hi, coaches. Thanks for watching this episode with me and Clint. If you are starting out building a coaching program now, or if you have the chance to refine your coaching program, please follow the Thrive model and start with finding clarity. To learn more about the Thrive model, head over to our website to find all of our free resources at edurolearning.com/thrive. If you need support as you go through the process, join us for the next global cohort of the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program, where we will walk you through the Thrive model from start to finish and help you apply every stage, clarity, consistency, and community in your school right now. You can find all the details on our website at edurolearning.com/coach. Registration opens only once a year. Early admission applications are open right now. Don't miss your chance to join this year's global cohort. Find all the details at edurolearning.com/coach. Wherever you are in your coaching journey, we can support you. If you're curious right now and you have questions, please reach out. You can leave a comment below. You can join our Coach Better Facebook group or find us on social media at Eduro Learning and send me a DM. I'd love to support you on your coaching journey. See you next time.